In this video, I'm going to give you a crystal clear framework for the optimal way to save for retirement. We're going to be talking about the types of investments that you should hold at different ages, but rather the types of accounts and saving approaches that you should be taking. This is a framework that can benefit someone who is 25 years old, just starting their retirement savings journey, as well as someone who is 60 and a couple years away from retirement. So feel free to share this with your children. Feel free to use the information yourself. Let's get into it. Now, the first thing that I want to push back pretty hard on is some other order of investing videos I've seen. These are typically laid out in a stair or ladder type method where one approach, like saving into your Roth IRAs, clearly positioned better than saving into your traditional IRA. And this paints a false picture for you, the viewer. Now, look, I would love for personal finance to be that simple, but it's just not. There is nuance that is required. The good news, however, I'll give you the clear path through that nuance maze. Instead, a diagram for the order of investing should look something like this, where depending on a person's situation, the optimal choice at a given level might vary. But rather than throwing the kitchen sink at you right off the bat, let's walk through this level by level. Now, first we have the foundation of this pyramid. You'll notice that there are three investments or approaches that fit into this level. And again, the order of which you should specifically contribute to depends entirely on your situation. I would make a case that in certain situations, any one of these three could be prioritized. First, we have paying down high interest debt. Currently, the average credit card interest rate is 20.37%. This is an outstanding compound interest rate if it's working in your favor, and the fastest way to destroying wealth when it's working against you. For instance, if I had a CD that paid you 20% on an annual basis, how much money would you invest in that CD? Now, the only right answer here is all of your money. And so when this is flipped and working against you, you must prioritize paying off high interest debt like credit cards. If you have $10,000 in credit card debt and you're just making the minimum payment each and every month, it will take you approximately 14 and a half years and $7,000 in extra interest to pay it off. You should pay off this high interest rate debt before putting a single dollar into the stock market. Next, we have an emergency fund. The typical recommendation for how much you should save or have in an emergency fund is 3 to 6 months of income. Now, you can save much more than this, but this is kind of the minimum. So if you make $5,000 per month, you should have at least $15,000 as an emergency fund buffer. Now, I know this isn't a sexy way to invest your money, and you aren't going to grow that emergency fund in a substantial way, much because it is a liquid, generally invested in cash type of fund. But it's a foundational component of building wealth. If you don't have an emergency fund, you are one step away from high interest rate debt. Because at the end of the day, what do you do if you have a $2,000 car repair bill, but you have nothing in savings? You take out credit card debt. And so you're one step away from having that high interest rate debt. Then the final approach in the foundation of this pyramid is a topic I'm passionate about and one that seems to be overlooked by many advisors. And that's investing in yourself. There is no better investment on earth, in my opinion, than to invest in yourself, level yourself up. And the best part is no one can take that investment away. You can't lose that investment. And I don't mean investing in some charlatan's program to make you rich overnight. I mean truly developing valuable skills in today's marketplace. Most people trying to learn how to invest better and beat the market are wasting their time and money because the vast majority of multimillionaires didn't build their wealth through being great investors. They grew it through income. Grow your income, grow your savings rate, grow your wealth. Depending on your job, there may be a clear certification that will almost automatically translate to an income bump. In the financial advising industry, a CFP designation is an example of this. Let's say this is a $5,000 program. It costs you $5,000, but then gives you a $5,000 increase in your annual income. All things being equal, this translates to being able to save $5,000 extra per year. Early in your career, this is a trade-off that's a no-brainer, but upgrading your skills may not be as clear as a certification. If you work in a marketing department, let's say, developing modern skills around content creation, social media marketing, graphic design, or copywriting, all will make you a more valuable employee. Valuable employees not only make more, but also have more job security. Investing in yourself will give you a far greater return on investment than any other investment I can think of. Next, we move on to level 2 and analyze 2 very common investments available to most of you watching this video. The first is investing in your 401k up to the point that your employer will match your contribution. For those that aren't familiar with a match, when you put in a certain amount of money into your 401k, your company will match that contribution. For instance, you contribute $3,000 and they will match that. You instantly earn a 100% return on your contribution. Again, that's pretty tough to beat if we think about it. Now, the problem is some 401k plans aren't the best. They can be restrictive, have higher fees, or have poor investment options. Even so, the match is still often a great path forward. For instance, let's say you have a 401k with a 100% match, and it only grows at 8%. And let's say you compare this to a better account with more flexibility, and let's say with that flexibility you could earn 10%. This, by the way, is a very hypothetical example just to show the power of a 401k match. This quote-unquote better account earns 10% but has no match. So which will win over the next, let's say, 30 years? The 401k match by a wide margin. This goes to show the power of a match on your contribution. Keep in mind in this level, I'm only saying that you should contribute up to the point that you have a match. If you are no longer getting that match, then we'll talk about how much you should contribute a little bit later on in this video. Next is a less commonly used account, an HSA. An HSA is a health savings account that gives you unmatched tax benefits. When you contribute $1 to an HSA, you get a tax deduction in the year you contribute, meaning you don't owe any tax on that given contribution. It can then grow and be withdrawn tax-free as well if it's used for qualified healthcare expenses. So this is basically triple tax advantages that no other account can offer. Now, regardless of where you are in life, whether you're young or whether you're a little bit older, we're all going to have healthcare expenses. So I wouldn't really worry about contributing too much to this type of account. But even if somehow you do, you put too much in that HSA and you don't end up using all of it on those qualified healthcare expenses, know that in retirement, this account can be treated just like a regular IRA. When you withdraw for non-healthcare expenses, you will just owe tax on those given withdrawals. Now, generally, I would prioritize contributing to a 401k with a substantial match over an HSA. But if we look at a less generous match, know that the tax-free benefit of an HSA can actually keep up with a 401k with that match. For instance, if we look at a 401k with a 25% match, and we look at that 401k being taxed at 20% on withdrawals in retirement, we actually see that the HSA and the 401k have exactly the same after-tax value at the end of 30 years. Again, this is due to the triple tax savings nature of that health savings account. The next level that we'll talk about, level 3, is a more difficult level to determine based on your situation. In this level, we have 3 main tax buckets: Roth IRAs, traditional IRAs, and then your taxable accounts. Now, which account you should prioritize contributing to depends entirely on your situation. And there are really 2 sets of variables I believe matter here. The first is, what is your tax rate today versus the tax rate you would expect in retirement? And then number 2, how much flexibility or liquidity do you desire? A Roth IRA is an account you contribute to with after-tax dollars, but the good news is it's a tax-free account after that. You will never be taxed again. And so if you're someone in a lower tax bracket, like the 10, 12, or even the 22% bracket, it oftentimes makes more sense to prioritize Roth contributions. With a traditional IRA, however, you get a tax deduction on that contribution, but then you only pay taxes when you withdraw money out. So if you are in the 24%, 32%, 35, and 37% brackets, it will likely make more sense to defer taxes into the future because you will be at a lower rate in retirement and are at a pretty high tax rate right now. Now, the biggest drawback of these 2 accounts is illiquidity, because you generally need to be 59.5 to withdraw from these accounts. The last bucket, the taxable account, is one that offers less tax advantages, but you gain flexibility and liquidity. You are taxed both on the contribution as well as on an ongoing basis for any growth that is realized. But let's say you're someone who wants to retire at 45. You might have $3 million saved up, but if you can't withdraw that money because it's saved in a Roth IRA or a traditional IRA, then it really does you no good. For this reason, saving in a taxable account can be wise to avoid the 59.5 age rule. You can take from that taxable account at any point during your life. So which account you prioritize here depends entirely on your situation. To take this one step further, a contribution between a Roth versus a traditional IRA depends entirely on the tax rate today and down the road. Lower tax rate today, and you should probably go the Roth route. Higher tax rate today, however, and you should probably go the traditional IRA route. To show this dynamic at play, if we use 10% growth assumptions, and you look at a 22% tax rate on withdrawal, as well as a 22% tax rate on contribution, you end up in the exact same spot with both of these accounts after 30 years. So again, it really comes down to the tax rates in making this decision. Now, some will promote the Roth IRA all day, no matter what. After all, you get tax-free growth. And this person is giving you bad advice if you're in, let's say, the 35% bracket, because of the higher tax rate you'd have to pay today on those contributions. With the next level, we have maxing out your 401k. Now, generally, I don't advise maxing out your 401k before IRAs due to flexibility reasons. But when you are saving a ton of money and you need additional places to shelter that money, a 401k offers some great advantages. The biggest one being a higher contribution limit. Many 401ks also have both Roth and traditional options and will sometimes allow for earlier withdrawals than 59.5. For this reason, maxing out your 401k can be a great way to up that savings rate in a tax-efficient manner. Roth 401ks also do not have an income limit like Roth IRAs do. Then finally, at the top of the pyramid, you should pay down low interest rate debt. Contrary to what the Dave Ramseys of the world preach, not all debt is bad. My house specifically has a mortgage that is less than 3% per year. It would be financially unwise to pay that mortgage off. Think about this. I can put cash in a money market right now, earning nearly 5%. A stable 5%, last time I ran it through a calculator, is more than a stable 3%, so I earn a spread. On the screen I have a heat map showing a 3.5% loan, and then I'm running 10,000 randomized simulations, a Monte Carlo, with a given expected return, and then volatility measure of those returns. Historically, stocks have averaged about 10% per year, with about 15% volatility, or a little bit more than that. Given this, you would have a 93% chance of coming out ahead if you were to invest in the stock market instead of paying off that 3.5% mortgage. And this just shows a measure of frequency of coming out ahead. The magnitude can be quite large in many instances. Even with a more conservative 60-40 portfolio, historically, you would have an 80 to 90% chance of coming out ahead. These odds are pretty solidly in your favor. And so I would certainly prioritize any other investment we've discussed so far if you have some really low interest rate debt right now. And so there you have it. Here is your pyramid to build wealth for retirement in the most optimal way. You now have a clear framework that you can take and apply to your financial plan. Now, if you like this video, I think you're really gonna find some eye-opening ideas. In this video right here, we recently recorded talking about 8 timely reasons you should retire as soon as possible. Again, click here to learn more, and always remember, you don't need more money, you need a better plan. Thanks for watching.